Okay, thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate it. I'd like to call this meeting of the House. Aaron, I'm getting feedback. Okay. All right. I'd like to call this meeting of the House Game and Fisheries Committee to order. Aaron, would you please take the roll call?
Chair Kulik,
Here.
Representative Boyd,
Designation?
Rep. Ceresi,
Designation?
Rep. Deloso, Rep. Frill,
Real? Is on designation?
Rep. Gergley,
Designation?
Rep. Giroir,
Designation?
Rep. Haddock, Rep. Harris,
Designation?
Rep. Hohenstein,
Designation?
Rep. Kazim,
Designation?
Rep. Mirsky, Rep. Paeli,
Designation?
Rep. Still. Chair Maloney,
Here.
Representative Banta,
Here.
Rep. Cabell,
Here.
Rep. Devanzo, Rep. Diorsi,
Designation.
Rep. Ecker, Rep. Flick,
Designation.
Rep. Kuzma, Rep. Labs,
Designation.
Rep. Olsummer, and Rep. Wentling.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to start into our bills. Is there a motion to consider House Bill 2531? Okay, Chair Maloney, second. Somebody go, okay, Rep. Steele. Okay, may we, Paul, would you explain the bill, please?
Yes. Yes, House Bill 2531 is sponsored by Representative Kulik, and this legislation would amend Title 30 Fish of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to add a new chapter to address boats that are abandoned, at risk, or at risk of becoming an environmental hazard or public safety concern.
Okay, thank you. I'll start the discussion on the bill. We've worked very closely. Chair Maloney has worked very closely with me on this, and I want to thank the Fish and Boat Commission for also working closely on this. Abandoned boats are becoming an issue, a bigger issue on our rivers and streams, and it's a burden on our municipalities and our cities. So I appreciate all the work that was done to bring this bill to the committee. Chair Maloney, any comment?
I concur. We support.
Okay, with no further discussions, we'll call a roll on the vote. But Chair Maloney, are there any, and myself, are there any negative votes on this bill? Okay. Seeing none, the bill passes. Thank you. Is there a motion to consider House Bill 1858? Rep. Mirsky, is there a second? Rep. Haddock, thank you. Paul, would you please explain the bill?
House Bill 1858 is sponsored by Representative Deloso, and this legislation would amend Title 30 Fish, Section 306 Boating Advisory Board of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to stipulate that the Boating Advisory Board would include the Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, or a designee, and 2 at-large members of the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. It would also remove the requirement that the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission and the Assistant Executive Director in charge of watercraft safety serving on the board, advisory board be removed.
Thank you. Rep. Deloso, any comments?
Thank you, Chair. Not actually. I mean, Paul did a good job. It's just changes the composition of the board to better reflect the boating public.
Thank you. Chair Maloney, any comments?
No, I support and we will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to a roll call, are there any negative votes on this bill? Hearing none, the bill is reported from the House Game and Fisheries Committee. Thank you. We now turn to House Bill 1894. I need a motion to consider House Bill 1894. Where was that? Also, thank you. I need a second. Thank you. And I'd also like to welcome Representative Cerisi here to the meeting. Thank you for coming.
Welcome to PA.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate
Paul,
it.
would you explain the bill, please?
House Bill 1894 is sponsored by Representative Major and would increase the penalties for the negligent or intentional release of non-native injurious fish or exotic wildlife from a third-degree misdemeanor to a first-degree misdemeanor.
Okay, and this is a very important bill, and I welcome Representative Major here for comments.
Thank you, Chair Kulik, Chair Maloney, and members of the committee. In the 60th District last summer, we had a unique issue with the release of pet alligators into the Kiskiminitas River due to negligent owners who were both not securing them properly and subsequently releasing them into the river when they became too large to keep as pets. The Kiski River is a popular recreation spot for fishing and kayaking on the border of Armstrong and Westmoreland counties. Last summer, kayakers were surprised to find alligators swimming up to and around their kayaks. One, dubbed Chomper by the community, was pulled into a boat and captured by one of these kayakers. A second gator, Neo, survived the entire winter on the river before being captured this spring by bicyclists who found him along a popular recreational trail and carried him on their bicycle for miles to meet the police at the trailhead. There are photos of all of this on the internet, if you don't believe me. On another occasion, a gentleman was trapped in his home due to a third alligator on his porch. Meanwhile, around a similar time last year in Northumberland County, a fence was purposefully cut at a mink farm, setting 7,400 mink free, leading to the deaths of hundreds of animals. These animals, both alligators and mink, could potentially be dangerous to the citizens and local wildlife and cause havoc with the local ecosystem. This legislation would amend Titles 30 and 34 to increase the penalties for negligent or intentional dangerous exotic wildlife. Thank you for your consideration today.
Representative, thank you for bringing this issue to the committee. Representative Maloney, any comments?
Thank you, Representative Major. We followed some of this, which was rather interesting to say the least. Thanks for your explanation. I notice it does basically say exotic. We have that challenge with some of the invasives too, sort of like special ed from Philly. But, you know, he sort of invaded this committee a while ago, but we had to move him on. I know it's a little bit of a joke, but it always lightens it up a little bit because these are the unexpected things. So appreciate what your bill explained, and we support it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative Cerisi.
Just a quick question. I think it was last year or the year before, Representative Schusterman had something similar with exotic animals, if I'm not mistaken, as a legislation. I just wondered if there was some crossover. It wasn't releasing them, but it was something similar to this.
I think it was ownership. That bill considered ownership of exotic animals. This bill is dealing with the release, but upping the ante on the penalty for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? With no further discussion, we'll take the roll. Are there any negative votes on this bill? Hearing none, House Bill 1894 is reported from the House Game and Fisheries Committee. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Major. We now move to House Bill 2583. Is there a motion to consider House Bill 2583 offered by Representative Deloso? Representative Cerisi first, Representative Haddock second. Thank you. Paul, please explain the bill.
House Bill 2583 would amend Section 303 Game Commission officers, employees of Title 34 Game of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to require that each full-time officer of the Pennsylvania Game Commission be classified in the same manner as members of the Pennsylvania State Police for the purposes of compensation.
Representative Deloso, any discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it is a fact in the Commonwealth that we suffer a problem retaining our best people. This bill, should it pass, will bring parity to our game wardens and our Pennsylvania State Police. Every game warden, almost every person they encounter has a firearm. It is a very, very dangerous job. It's hard to say that they are on equal footing because of the danger that their job poses. The protection of the Commonwealth's assets, which are our wildlife, are frankly their Commonwealth assets, is very important. What we're suffering in not only the Game Commission but the Fish Commission is we make demands upon our applicants that they rise to such a level that by the time we're done training them and the compensation that they receive doesn't offer parity with even local municipal police forces. We are losing our best simply over compensation. This will bring parity along with our state police. I do not intend, it is not my intention to interfere in the collective bargaining process with this bill. That having been said, the unions are free to bargain for as much as they can, and hopefully the state recognizes that and bargains fairly. But in this instant case, we cannot continue to spend thousands of dollars per employee in training to train them for the next municipal police force that says, hey, we'll put you on for $74,000 a year to start plus benefits when we're paying middle 40s. We're losing even our experienced game wardens. I think it's time that we bring parity to the Game Commission and, frankly, the Fish Commission with our other state police and our other state law enforcement officers. I'm proud to sponsor this bill, and I'll be glad to take any questions should they be posed.
Thank you. Representative Haddock?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At our public budget hearing back in February or March of this year, I expressly brought this issue up with the openings that were in our Game Commission and our Fish Commission to both executive directors. Both the directors explicitly talked about the hardships and the hard times and the moves that they're trying to make to fill our ranks. I compliment Representative Del Rosso for taking that and putting it into a bill form. And this is something that the agency is backed and can support not only for the need, but the financial stability of the Game Commission is there. So this is not any kind of financial hardship to the agency.
Any other comments from the members? Chair Maloney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. The last two speakers Deloso and Haddock. Some of us have discussed this problem for several sessions. This isn't new with respect to the difficulty, the decisions that have to be made, upper office, administration, all the above. A couple comments that I will make just factually for all present and those watching are this. I have been a very strong supporter of all of our law enforcement. As a matter of fact, if you don't know it, all our first responders, which was Friday, was First Responder Day, that I championed a bill that the governor was supposed to make a proclamation on. However, I did propose a bill that was agreed upon, discussed by many officers, the FOP, and a lot of really good-hearted discussion took place over this. And my bill that was not allowed to run was a 15% across-the-board increase that was satisfactory to our wardens, who I've known since I've been a young boy. That was 15%. I support this bill, but it's 30%. So I just want to make that clear to everybody, because I don't believe there's support within the upper office of the Game Commission. I believe they're looking at this as long-term expense. I believe they're looking at this as a big chunk of money, not necessarily for what's at hand. So that's some of the feedback I got. My members are all on board, and we'll see where it goes. Could be a shot across the bow. We all know how that works. But just remember, there was another option, and I would like to see, as the former representative stated, that we have proper compensation for those especially that we invest in. So thank you, Madam Chair. We'll all be in favor of this.
Thank you. With that, are there any negative votes on the bill? Hearing none, House Bill 2583 is reported from the House Game and Fisheries Committee. Thank you. Yeah. Is there a motion to consider Senate Bill 698 offered by Senator Robinson? Chair Maloney, I need a second. Representative Ecker, thank you. Okay, no amendments to the bill. On this bill, is there any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
This legislation would amend Title 34 Game of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to establish and provide a military event license to members of the armed forces and disabled veterans. More specifically, this legislation would provide that the Pennsylvania Game Commission provide for the establishment of a military event license exemption permit, which would be provided for events held on private land with the express approval of the landowner for the purpose of rehabilitation and enjoyment of eligible individuals. All permit holders would still be subject to normal reporting requirements and bag limits.
Okay, now, is there any discussion on the bill? Chair Maloney.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that I've been somewhat intimately involved with for years with respect to special groups, special needs, people who may have one more chance at experiencing something or have not been able to sort of negotiate what's necessary to experience one of these hunts or fishing trips or what have you. And there's been a little bit of a glitch with respect to what's been allowed, so I appreciate it. I support the bill, and there will be no negative votes on this.
Thank you. Are there any negative votes on this bill? Hearing none, Senate Bill 698 is reported from the House Game and Fisheries Committee. I need a motion to consider Senate Bill 67 offered by Senator Laughlin. They're not. Representative Steele, thank you. I need a second. Representative Deloso, thank you. Paul, would you please explain the bill?
Senate Bill 67 would amend Title 34 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to provide the following: that at least one member of the Pennsylvania Game Commission's Board of Commissioners represents the interest of agricultural commodities. Specifically, it would pertain to the term normal agricultural operations and wildlife. Furthermore, the legislation would provide that the Pennsylvania Game Commission create an agriculture access permit list, which would be designed to connect licensed hunters with private agricultural landowners for the purpose of crop damage mediation. In addition, the Game Commission must establish a self-reporting system that would allow a person that has been assigned to remove deer for crop damage purposes with the ability to report the harvest to an officer of the PGC via toll-free number, through an online application, or through a publicly accessible website. And lastly, it would provide that the Game Commission may institute Sunday hunting by regulation.
Okay, we have several amendments on this bill. You're going past. Just tell me when we get to it. Okay, Representative Maloney will be offering Amendment A05667. And now would you please explain the amendment?
Amendment A05667 inserts language requiring the executive director of the Game Commission to only hold their term for 2 years, and then requires reappointment by Game Commission commissioners.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Chair Maloney, is there a second? Alsalmer, thank you. Representative Alsalmer. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Pretty straightforward, Madam Chair, so thank you. To move on.
Thank you. Okay. Aaron, may we have a roll call vote, please, on the amendment?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Cerisi, Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation? No.
Rep Gergley,
Designation? No.
Rep Giroir,
Designation? No.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris, Rep Hohenstein,
Designation? No.
Rep Kazim,
Designation? No.
Rep Mirsky, Rep. Pielli,
Designation no.
and Rep. Steele. Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep. Banta. Yes. Rep. Cabell. Rep. Devanzo.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Diorsi.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Ecker. Rep. Flick.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Kuzma. Rep. Labs.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Olsummer. And Rep. Wentling. It fails.
Thank you.
May we have the number? I didn't know how many were actually in the committee today.
$14 to 11 to 10, sorry.
Ken, before we move on, I want to welcome Representative Boyd, who has joined us, and also our newest member, Representative Harris. Welcome to the committee. We will now move on to the next amendment. Representative Maloney will be offering Amendment A05668. Would you please explain the amendment?
Amendment A05668 prohibits officers within the Game Commission from listing their home address on any citation, special permit, or other official business issued by the officer.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Chair Maloney, second. Representative Kuzma, thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that arose out of a district with sort of a gray area with no way to really get good, solid answers or policy. And this is really a FOP request, and we are very concerned with the safety and what could happen as a result of this not being implemented. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Kuzma.
Thank you. Just wanted to mention this for 1 second. Something that I didn't realize is that some of the officers that would be filing these citations, issuing these citations operate out of their houses. And I was fearful of officers not having privacy whenever they are issuing and charging someone with a crime and having their home address on the citation. It doesn't matter to me what address is other than their home, whether it's the Game Commission headquarters or the state police barracks or what have you. But to me, this amendment just protects our officers, protects their privacy, and protects people that are being charged with crimes of knowing where they reside. Thank you.
Any other comments? Go, Representative Deloso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the maker of the amendment. Is it standard operating procedure for an officer to use his home address on a citation?
We've been told that officers have the option to get a P.O. box, but that's an option. Otherwise, it could and possibly would be their home address.
Madam Chair, may I do a follow-up question?
Yes.
Is the optional post office box, are they reimbursed for the optional post office box?
We've been told that they can be reimbursed for the P.O. box, yes.
Comment on the amendment?
Go ahead.
In that the officer elects to use his home address versus electing to use a paid-for post office box, brings into question the need for the amendment. I mean, any officer that voluntarily gives up his home address on a citation is actually doing it voluntarily, and according to the amendment, he would be in violation for using his home address. So, I mean, is it the intention of the amendment to turn the officer issuing the citation into the bad guy with this language, or is it the intention of the amendment to make the game commission the bad guy in the wording of this amendment?
Chair Maloney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me make something perfectly clear, Representative. There's no intention here to put anybody in harm's way. The intention here is the fact that if you would like me to release the text messages that came from the Game Commission officials to me and others with respect to the situation that took place with this man's vehicle in his driveway and was visited by somebody who got a citation, I'll be glad to do that. The intention here is that the Game Commission would develop a policy that wouldn't let this happen. The intention of the amendment is to make it perfectly clear that we want these officers to be safe, especially when they're at home with their family. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further comments? Go ahead, Rep. Deloso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I, along with every other citizen of the Commonwealth, does not want to place our officers in any danger. The onus in this amendment should be placed on the commission, and I agree with Chair Maloney to develop a system wherein our game wardens are not exposed at their home residences. I'm just not certain that the way this is worded, that the onus is clearly placed where it belongs, on the commission and not on the issuing officer, whose duty it is to enforce this title. And that's my only, and it remains my question that I don't believe the amendment properly places the onus where it belongs, which is on the commission.
Thank you. Any other comments? Representative Harris?
Good morning. I come from a city where we're trying to rein in, have a rule of law. Now I don't know if this particular bill is pertaining to police officers in general or just enforcement officers of the gaming and commissions. In my perspective, in my city, I would prefer to protect our police officers because we have, we have some issues in the Philadelphia County. But if it's just the gaming commission, I would think all officers should be protected from any intrusion or aggression of somebody trying to retaliate. So I just like to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? And while I greatly appreciate the intent and the substance of this amendment, I am reluctant to have it part of a bill that deals with Sunday hunting and other issues. I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that we need to work on. But I will be a no at this time. Aaron, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Soresi, Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation no.
Rep Giroux,
Designation no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris, Rep Hohenstein,
Designation no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation no.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paeli,
Designation no.
and Rep Still. Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation,
Rep Devanzo,
Designation,
Rep Diorsi,
Designation,
Rep Ecker, Rep Flick,
Designation,
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation.
Rep Olsummer, and Rep Wentling. The amendment fails, 14 to 11.
Okay, and again, we have a lot of members here from the Game Commission. This is a very important issue. And while I do not believe it necessarily belongs in this particular bill, this is an issue that we will be addressing as a committee. And I hope that the Game Commission understands that this is something that will need to be addressed. Thank you. Representative Maloney will be offering amendment A05669. Will you please explain the amendment?
Amendment A05669. This amendment requires the Game Commission to acknowledge their ethical obligation to the sportsmen of the Commonwealth and develop internal commission policy to ensure respect for sportsmen is maintained. When the Game Commission provides their yearly report to the General Assembly, they must attest to this ethical policy and note how they are upholding their obligation to the sportsmen and sportswomen who fund and enable the Game Commission's continued operations.
Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the amendment. Chair Maloney, second. Thank you. Representative Banta, thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Chair Maloney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really want to go into too many of these details. There's so much that can be said. There's so much has been said. I think it's a very straightforward, ethical approach to providing for the sportsmen, allowing them a voice. There's other things that will be coming up out of this meeting and discussion that I think will be substantive. I think after we've seen some of the behavior in the past and some of the things that have been unfortunate, especially for a Black Island sportsman, I think it needs to stop and start with respect to how that behavior takes place, and that should be at the top. So I think it's a pretty straightforward amendment. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Any other comments? Aaron, please take a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, Candace. Representative Banta?
I just want to make note that it is very important, our relationship with the Game Commission. When you're out there with the hunters and out in the woods and stuff, when we're talking about the Game Commission, it shouldn't be us against them. The same thing with the law enforcement. So we need to change that narrative. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Aaron, please take a roll call.
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Soresi, Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation no.
Rep Giroux,
Designation no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris, Rep Hohenstein,
Designation no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation no.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paelli,
Designation no.
and Rep Still. Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designated yes.
Rep Devanzo,
Designation yes.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation yes.
Rep Ecker, Rep Flick,
Designation yes.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation yes.
Rep Olsummer, and Rep Wentling. It fails 14 to 11.
Thank you. Representative Maloney is now offering Amendment A05671. Would you please explain the amendment?
Amendment A05671. Under current law, every employee or representative of the Game Commission possesses unfettered discretion to enter upon private land and conduct warrantless surveillance without probable cause, regardless of whether the landowner has posted reasonable notice against trespass. A recent challenge to the Game Commission's surreptitiously installation of motion-activated surveillance cameras on properties owned by several hunting clubs was dismissed by the Commonwealth Court, which reasoned, in part, that Title 34 authorizes the game warden's incursion on private property rights. This amends Title 34 to disallow for that incursion.
And I would like a motion to adopt this amendment.
I do.
Chair Maloney, second.
Banta.
Representative Banta, thank you. Is there any discussion from the members on this amendment? Chair Maloney, any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So interesting how some of these amendments sort of queue up the next issue, which is probably well managed with respect to that. So this open fields doctrine, which goes back to, I think, stills on people's property back during Prohibition or whenever the need was determined, is really, in many ways, what you'll hear later on in this meeting as to why some of the constitutional rights that are the most sacred to landowners in America should be upheld. We have a horrific situation that was mentioned within the explanation, and we have a horrific incident that just took place with the Fish Commission. We have all heard the necessity of the relationships and the support that we as sportsmen have with those who follow out the agency's policies. And I'm going to tell you something. If you saw that video with respect to the woman dying of cancer, sitting in a tub, and her husband asked the officer not to enter his property, not to go down to the water, to go down to do something that he wasn't doing illegally anyway. If you think about the violation of your private space and allow this, we have failed our people. This is something that must be removed from an allowance of law or what have you. This is an unconscionable act of violating people's privacy. Like I said before, if you'd like to see the video, I'll make it happen for you. This is the sort of thing that we cannot have. We can't support it, and we shouldn't allow it. So all this is the beginning of a discussion today on honoring my rights to my property, and you need to stay off unless I give you permission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. again, I truly believe that this is a very important issue that needs to be addressed in this day and age. This is not 1930 anymore. This has to be something we address. I fully expect that this committee will be addressing this issue at a later date. Please do not take my no vote on this amendment as any indication that I disagree with the amendment. I agree with the amendment. I would prefer not to see it lost in the midst of another bill. I would like to know that the commissions are going to address this at some point, and I will guarantee you that this committee will be addressing this issue down the road. Take it as the lawyer in me that has dealt with criminal cases and the protections that we offer to potential defendants in criminal matters. I believe we should be offering the same consideration to law-abiding landowners and homeowners. I understand why this is part of the titles for the Fish and Game Commissions. However, I think this really needs to be addressed as times have changed. Thank you. Aaron, will you take a roll call vote?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Ceresi, Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation no.
Rep Haddock. I'm sorry, Rep Giroux,
Designation no.
Rep Harris, Rep Hohenstein,
Designation no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation no.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paelli,
Designation no.
and Rep Still. Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation, yes.
Rep Devanzo,
Designation, yes.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation, yes.
Rep Ecker, Rep Flick,
Designation, yes.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation, yes.
Rep Olsummer, Rep Wentling. It fails 14 to 11.
Thank you. Representative Maloney will be offering Amendment A05672. Would you please explain the amendment?
Amendment A05672 sets in statute that the beginning of buck rifle season is to begin on the historically and culturally significant Monday after Thanksgiving.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Chair Maloney, is there a second? Representative Banta, thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Banta.
This is a big one, guys. Up home, I get calls weekly about this. Everybody wants it to go back to Monday. I think we did that for years. I don't know if it's monetary, economically, or how this ended up being Saturday after Thanksgiving, but all the folks that I know up there want to go back to Monday. I get a lot of calls on this, and I'm trying to figure out how we ended up going to Saturday. I understand Thanksgiving and hunting camp and getting together with the good old boys, but it has really upset a lot of people up there, and they're trying to get back to Monday. So I support it. Thank you.
Chair Maloney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. Rep Banta. I'm going to go back to a couple things that were already stated. Some of the reason that these amendments are here today is because we don't have much time. We don't have many opportunities to address some of the things that take place. Title 34 is an opportunity to address some of these things, whether they're ethical, egregious, or whatever. So this amendment was actually not mine. It was somebody else's who wanted to champion this cause and he wanted it as a bill, but it came on now as an amendment, and I'm going to give you the backstory to it. I know the politics as to why the Saturday that got moved to make way for a Sunday. That wasn't science. It wasn't management. And now this is where I'm going to be very sharp with it, especially with the fellows that are sitting in this room. I have your numbers. Stop lying. The point is, if you take a subject or an issue to the sportsmen, you let them give their input, which is why I think we should be electing commissioners. However, the numbers that the Game Commission had, and I have, were 60% said keep it on Monday. People need to stop lying. Thou shalt not. Remember that? The point is, this has created tremendous turmoil that the sportsmen were denied their opportunity to make it as they wished. So this is why the amendment's here. Somebody else's, I was glad to put it on in this committee. And I hope you can understand that this is why we have a lot of issues that need to be addressed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Representative Steele.
For the record, I would like to say that I and my district office get a whole lot of calls and emails and run into people out and about who are thrilled with the Saturday opener. My son is here, Jack. Jack, could you stand up? Hi, Jack. 13 years old. This is why we need the Saturday opener for kids like him and to keep the family traditions alive and well in this Commonwealth. Thank you.
Representative Banta.
Thank you for your testimony. I'd like to also add to that, though. In our day in high school, it was the greatest thing to take off Monday as a kid and come back and talk about the buck you missed or got. That's all I got to say about that.
Representative Kuzma.
Thank you, Chairman. So I would say that the majority of the hunters in my district would like the hunting opening day to be on Monday as opposed to Saturday. I realize the potential benefit of opening on Saturday and that you get a couple extra days to hunt, but by moving it to Monday, you get to reinstate the tradition of going to camp on Saturday and spending time with your family, okay? Patronizing local businesses, whether it be from Benezet to Clearfield to Crawford County, you name it. I think that the pros strongly outweigh the cons. On my way to Harrisburg on Monday, and I drive 3.5 hours, I drove my truck. Every single stoplight where I stopped on the way here, I could see down into people's vehicles. Every single person was on one of these. Every single stoplight, people texting or emailing or calling or whatever. This bill would give people the opportunity to unplug, which I think is a definite necessity in this day and age. So that's why I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Representative Haddock.
There's a new tradition for the last 7 years, and that's opening up on Saturday. Obviously, there's a group that is pushing pretty hard, and even with that, I can tell you my experience is the vast majority of people in the Northeast that I represent like it on Saturday for many, many reasons. And I have fond memories of hunting Representative Banta, on a Monday, but let's not forget, many of our schools have already given that day up. And now it's a required day of education in the state of Pennsylvania and many of our school districts. Things change. And there was a big drive by our ag community for herd management and regulating the deer herd from crop damage. And that was one of the big drivers for the original switch. So I know this is a standalone bill, and we're talking a lot on amendments, but this debate will continue, I am sure, because of the passion that hunters have for hunting. And at the end of the day, that's a healthy thing.
Anyone else? Representative Olsummer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my district is in the northeast of the state, and I'm a lifelong hunter and belong to a hunting club. Know a lot of people in hunting clubs, some big hunting clubs up in the northeast section of the state. And I can tell you there's not many people I run into that like the way the season starts now on a Saturday. Most of the established large clubs that I'm familiar with and the memberships that I run into all prefer to have it start on a Monday and like to roll into camp on a Saturday, Sunday, get set up, and patronize the local businesses in town. That's all I have to add.
Chair Maloney?
I appreciate the commentary. Wasn't really sure it was going to go all there, but I appreciate it. I want to be clear about a couple things. I've always attempted to keep myself and my personal things out of what I do, but it is who I am. So sometimes that's sort of hard to do. I raised 4 children. I now have 12 grandchildren, one of which was 13 yesterday. So I'm blessed. But they will not live the opportunity that I did with what we have or don't have in Pennsylvania from the traditions that I grew up with. If we do not center focus on what is important, and just remember, my comments were not about personal stuff, this thing or that thing. My comments were specifically directed that the sportsmen were ignored. Just remember that. We can always have policy issues and opinions, but the sportsmen were ignored. That is why this is so important and so hurtful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Again, another, well, I guess the topic of conversation among sportsmen and our sports clubs, et cetera. I've had numerous discussions with members of the Game Commission. I appreciate all those discussions I have had. We are discussing this issue. I think they understand that my no vote on this amendment is no indication that this issue is being dropped or that it will not be discussed. The outcome, I don't know yet. But I appreciate the fact that I believe this committee has gotten the attention of the Game Commission on this and other issues, and that, again, is greatly appreciated, and we will be working on this. With that, Aaron, will you take a roll call, please?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Ceresi, Rep DeLoso, Rep Frill,
Designation no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation no.
Rep Giroux,
Designation no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris,
Designation no.
Rep Hohenstein,
Designation no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation no.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paelli,
Designation no.
Rep Still, Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation, yes.
Rep Devanzo,
Designation, yes.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation, yes.
Rep Ecker,
Designation, yes.
Rep Flick,
Designation, yes.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation, yes.
Rep Olsummer, and Rep Wentling. It fails 11-14.
Thank you. Representative Olsummer will be offering Amendment A05733. May we have a description of the bill, of the amendment?
Amendment A05733 is based off of Senate Bill 1194. Game Commission deputies are currently disallowed from wearing body cameras. This amendment would allow the Game Commission to offer and possibly require cameras at the Commission's discretion.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Chair Maloney, is there a second? Representative Olsommer. Okay. Representative Olsommer, you have the floor.
With passage of Act 202 in 2014, certain officers and wildlife conservation officers, known as state game wardens of the Game Commission, were able to receive training and wear body cameras. At that time, deputies were purposefully excluded from wearing body cameras, and this prohibition remains in statute today. Time has shown that body cameras are a great tool for law enforcement and should be made available to all who want to wear them. This amendment ends the prohibition of the Pennsylvania Game Commission deputies wearing body cameras, allows Pennsylvania Game Commission to offer and require cameras to commission at the Commission's discretion, and provides a means of protection to officers as they perform their duties. At a later time, this same change to law will likely be required to Title 30, enabling Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission deputies to wear body cameras as well. The language of my amendment stems from Senator Baker's Senate Bill 1194 at the Senator's request and is supported by the Game Commission. Thank you.
Any other comments? Representative Kuzma?
Yeah, I just want to go on the record and say that body cameras are probably one of the greatest developments in law enforcement in the past decade. They take all of the subjective and discretionary facts and what have you concerning a situation, and they make them objective. So whenever an officer is pulling someone over, or an officer is administering a DUI test or what have you, being able to have all of that on footage totally takes the burden and fear away from our law enforcement. They're phenomenal. And the fact that our Game Commission officers don't have the ability to use them, they're forbidden under the law, totally obscene to me. That doesn't make any sense. So I think that it should be uniform. The Game Commission's totally for it, and we're definitely on the side of our law enforcement and trying to back them up and give them help. So I will be voting yes to this amendment.
Representative Banta?
Yeah, I just want to second his comment because I have wore camera in a security situation, environment, and job, and it's no problem. We got the camera right there, and it tells everybody what happened. Thanks.
Representative Steele?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that I think the content of this amendment is excellent, and I hope to see it, but I don't think it makes sense as an amendment to Sunday hunting. I hope to see us consider this independently. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, and again, this is a very important issue also. I would like to see it happen. I believe it is best, though, as a standalone bill. Aaron, will you take a roll call vote?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Cerisi, Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation no.
Rep Giroux,
Designation no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris,
Designation no.
Rep Hohenstein,
Designation no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation no.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paelli,
Designation no.
Rep Steele, Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation yes.
Rep Devanzo,
Designation yes.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation yes.
Rep Ecker,
Designation yes.
Rep Flick,
Designation yes.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation yes.
Rep Olsummer, and Rep Wentling. It fails 14 to 11.
Thank you. Representative Maloney is offering amendment A05723. May we have an explanation of the amendment?
Amendment A05723 is a portion of House Bill 1508, which enables a vote of the sportsmen to elect Game Commission commissioners while still preserving the governor's ability to appoint those commissioners.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Chair Maloney, is there a second? Representative Olsommer, thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Chair Maloney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see we have an invasive species in here, sort of one of those exotics. Are you disturbing my staff? Thank you very much. He always needs a shout out. That's kind of why he comes into the meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair. Here we are with probably what got queued up very well into the discussion today. And I can't say this strong enough. When we talk about being elected in a school board, in a township, in a county, in a state house, state senate, and in D.C., you are elected by those individuals within your political subdivision. I worked on this. I thought it was enough straightforward with respect to the discussions that we already had today over representation, who would be making those decisions, and how would we get there. If you think of some of the things that have been put in other bills, to me, this amendment is extremely important that we would let this go across the Commonwealth and have that input. So I believe the time has come that we should allow sportsmen to elect their commissioners. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the bill? On the amendment? Sorry. Representative Deloso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the maker, if he will. The sportsmen's clubs, as referenced as voting parties in this, how will they be distinguished?
In the actual language, we'll get that up for you.
All right.
So what it is it's within those regions, sir, and how that would take place is they would be identified pretty much as some of the process has already been done with respect to the advisory council, and we'll give you the actual verbiage.
The definition of sportsman's group is a not-for-profit membership group or organization that is located in the district in which nominations under subsection A2I are being conducted and whose purpose or mission is to do all of the following. 1, protect and promote this Commonwealth's outdoor heritage and history. 2, provide opportunity for and participate in hunting, trapping, and the conservation of wildlife and wildlife habitat. The sportsmen's groups do not vote for the commissioners. They
offer candidates.
They offer the candidate, but they do not vote.
Thank you for that answer. I mean, I'm just curious in that, if they were given the electoral power to put forward candidates, then how would the sportsman's group's candidate ultimately be placed on the board? Or would the board have to accept the candidate put forward?
Okay, so I'll add to it, but go ahead, Griffin.
Following the suggested candidates from the sportsmen's groups, there is then a vote by sportsmen within the district. The vote of the sportsmen would be tallied, and the top 3 vote getters would then be offered to the governor for consideration. The governor can refuse the top 3 and then is supplied with number 4, 5, and 6. The governor must then choose from one of those 3 to appoint.
Okay, then that begs the question, how are you determined to be a sportsman?
A sportsman is defined as a resident hunter or fur taker who has been licensed in the Commonwealth for each of the past 2 consecutive years and who resides in the district in which voting is being conducted. You have a license for 2 years.
It's kind of like we're elected.
Yeah, I mean, a resident could be, I mean, in this day and age where we worry about illegals voting and non-citizens voting, you don't necessarily have to be a citizen to be a resident. And if
Well-
you're a non-citizen resident member of a sportsman's club, then you would be determining, let me cut to the chase on this. The game lands and everything associated with the Game Commission is the property of the Commonwealth and every citizen of the Commonwealth. There is no distinction between the citizenry as to whether or not you have access, permission to view deer, to view turkeys, to do any of that. You need only be a citizen of the Commonwealth to enjoy the Commonwealth's asset, which is the wildlife in the Commonwealth. I think, not that I am entirely opposed to the sportsman. I am not entirely opposed to the sportsman having a voice in every step that the Game Commission has. I think this might be the wrong way to go about it because I think it takes power away from the citizens that don't engage in quote-unquote sportsman-type activity as in belonging to a registered sportsman's club. I do not belong to a registered sportsman's club. I do not belong to a hunting club. I own a property that borders Pennsylvania state game land. I choose not to participate in sportsman's clubs. So then my voice would be extinguished. And I think that this measure is a bridge too far, not unworthy of consideration, though, but a bridge too far. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Aaron, a roll call vote, please.
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Ceresi,
Designation no.
Rep DeLosa, Rep Friel,
Designation no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation no.
Rep Giroir,
Designation no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris,
Designation no.
Rep Hohenstein,
Designation no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation no.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paelli,
Designation no.
Rep Still. Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation yes.
Rep Devanzo,
Designation yes.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation yes.
Rep Ecker,
Designation yes.
Rep Flick,
Designation yes.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation yes.
Rep Olsummer, and Rep Wentling. It fails 14-11.
Okay, we have 2 more amendments before we hit the bill. We are running low, very low on time. Representative Maloney will be offering Amendment A05676. May I have a description of the amendment?
Amendment A05676 is a combination of amendments adopted on the House floor previously. It is directing that the game fund is to be used for sportsmen. It is banning the game fund for being used for alcohol purchases. It is requiring the Game Commission to develop a marketing plan that is public and viewable by the sportsmen, and it is banning the Game Commission from hiring outside lobbyists.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Chair Maloney, is there a second?
Kuzma.
Representative Kuzma, thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
You want to say something? Go ahead.
Representative Kuzma.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I am all about uniformity in rules between legislators, staff, and political appointees, okay? So the fact that there are a number of people in this room that that cannot accept a bottle of water from me as a legislator because it's considered a gift. Vice versa, I could take whatever gifts I want. I think that's a major problem. I'm all about uniformity and rules, right? So in this case, we as legislators are allocated an annual budget for our office. Okay, we could have events, we could do mail pieces, you name it. And whenever we conduct events, as I've done many in my district, I have food for senior fairs or, you name it. In order to be reimbursed by our comptroller, I have to give an itemized list of everything that we spent, and it cannot have alcohol because I, as a legislator, cannot be reimbursed from taxpayer money for purchases of alcohol. But the Game Commission can. And I think that's a major problem. I'm all about uniformity, and I'm all about having it be both ways. You aren't allowed to accept gifts, but I am. I think that's a major problem. I don't think legislators should be able to accept gifts, vice versa. I am not able to spend my office budget on alcohol. I don't think that the Game Commission should be able to spend their budget on alcohol. So that's why I'm in favor of this amendment.
Chair Maloney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, all of the issues within this amendment were previously voted for affirmatively by both sides of the aisle. So this will be an easy vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, again, all very good issues are present in this amendment. However, I, again, would not want these being lost into a bill that deals with Sunday hunting. Aaron, will you take a roll call, please?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Ceresi,
Designation, no.
Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation, no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation, no.
Rep Giroux,
Designation, no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Harris,
Designation, no.
Rep Hohenstein,
Designation, no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation, no.
Rep Mirsky,
Designation, no.
Rep Paelli,
Designation, no.
and Rep Steele. Chair Maloney,
Yes.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation, yes.
Rep Devanzo,
Designation, yes.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation, yes.
Rep Ecker,
Designation, yes.
Rep Flick,
Designation, yes.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation, yes.
Rep Allsummer, and Rep Wentling. Fails 14-11.
We're good? We're good, okay. Representative Maloney is offering Amendment A05749. The chair rules this out of order. Under Section 3 and C and D of our committee rules relative to late filed amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My request would be the suspension of the rules. LRB was 6 minutes late. So that's why we have the little hiccup and a technicality. My motion would be to suspend the rules to allow the amendment.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Representative Banta, second. Roll call vote, please. To accept we're accepting the ruling of the chair, so if you are in favor of the chair's ruling, you will vote. What do we? It'll be no. It'll be no. It'll be no. Okay. No on the motion. Aaron?
Chair Kulik,
No.
Rep Boyd, Rep Ceresi,
Designation, no.
Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation, no.
Rep Gergley,
Designation, no.
Rep Giroux,
Designation, no.
Rep Haddock, Rep Hohenstein,
Designation, no.
Rep Kazim,
Designation, no.
Rep Harris,
Designation, no.
Rep. Mursky.
Designation, no. Oh, he's here? Sorry.
Oh, okay. Rep. Pielli
Designation, no.
and Rep. Still. Chair Maloney.
Yes.
Rep. Manta, I'm sorry. Rep. Cabell.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Devanza.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Diorsi.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Ecker.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Flick.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Kuzma. Rep. Labs.
Designation, yes.
Rep. Olsummer. And Rep. Wentling. It fails 14 to 11.
Thank you. Now to House Bill, or Senate Bill 67. On this bill, is there any discussion? Representative Steele?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We recently moved a package of bills very similar to SB 67. It is my sincere hope that the two chambers can come together quickly to get this done for the esteemed sportsmen and women of this Commonwealth and the advocates who have fought tirelessly for many years to get this done, many of whom are in this room today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chair Maloney, any comments?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. And just for clarification, the last amendment, which is inside this bill, would have removed the dog trespass piece, which to me is extremely egregious. But I want to talk about this Sunday hunting bill. We heard a lot today about not putting amendments into a bill because it muddied it up, or it wasn't the time, or it wasn't the subject matter, although it's all within Title 34. So I have to go through a little bit for the public, the sportsmen, and the folks inside this room who may not be aware of the verbiage within inside this bill. The trespass piece with dogs would allow anybody who says they're retrieving their dog or looking for a dog that doesn't have to be present, they don't have to have proof, can trespass on my property. Just remember that woman who was sitting in her tub and the man who asked the person not to come on. How about at 2 o'clock in the morning? For those of you that don't know the procedures of many people who do spend a lot of time and effort and money on the habitat of their property or their club's property, would have an imaginary boundary that this bill, with some of these provisions, would make it legal to violate. Let's talk about the agricultural protection pieces. Many people don't know, I have the 5 sort of categories of what is allowable from the agency to do this. And I'm going to read some of them verbatim so that you know. Agricultural producers or employees can shoot any deer at any time with no limit. Unlimited deer of either sex can be removed year-round at any time of the day or night. Spotlights allowed. And using any implement that would be legal during the firearm deer season. Those eligible, owner, family member, lease, employee, must prove that their cultivated lands are primary means of gaining a livelihood and/or provide satisfactory evidence that material damage to crops were done by deer and occurring within the preceding 15 days of deer removal. Any deer must be reported to the commission within 24 hours and be field dressed. Those are some of the outlines. But let me tell you what's happening. You know that property that you spent thousands of dollars on and unmeasurable monies and hours, when that deer leaves your property and goes to eat those apples next door, they shoot him in the guts. That's what's happening. That's pretty humane, isn't it? They're shooting them in the guts. Those deer are running off for the vultures to get, or coyotes. Most of them are not retrieved. This makes it legal. And remember, if you're the guy on your property that goes out at night, for whatever your reason may be, you may see an officer, rightly so, arresting you for poaching.
Chair Maloney, I need to interrupt you. The House is on the floor now. We have received permission from the Speaker to continue our meeting, but Chair Maloney, with all due respect, I would ask that you concentrate on House Bill 67. We have 2 more issues to get through. I appreciate your comments greatly, but you know we are late for the floor.
Well, Madam Chair, this is in the bill. So this isn't made up, and I want to make sure that people understand one of the problems that we have with getting the word out is the fact that these things do happen. We have a request for a farmer on the commission. Very, very problematic opening of the door, which we already have 2 farmers on the commission. Who else will then be acceptable on as commissioners? You have compensatory days with respect to waterfowl. I was talking to some duck hunters this past weekend at a fair. They had no idea that if the Sunday hunting piece of this would go into place for waterfowl, they would lose at least 10 days of duck hunting and goose, or any migratory bird for that matter. So these are just pieces of why it's so important for you to understand that the devil's in the details. This is not a Sunday hunting bill. And for anybody sitting in this room or anywhere else that says it's okay for you to traipse all over my property with your dog, or say you're looking for a dog, and or shoot the deer and let them run back onto my land because you can't retrieve them, honestly, I can't believe we're here. I honestly cannot. This is not conservation. This is not sportsman ethics. This is what troubles me about people who think that they're negotiating something or they're compromising. So there's a lot more I could go on about this, and I would suggest that you really examine your heart and examine what you're about to write to somebody or tweet, because the devil is in the details. And I was raised that way.
And I thank you. I do hate to cut you off. I apologize for that, but
Well, the floor can wait.
we need to get to a roll call vote on this. Aaron, will you take a roll call vote on Senate Bill 67?
Chair Kulik,
Yes.
Rep Boyd, Rep Ceresi,
Designation, yes.
Rep Deloso, Rep Frill,
Designation, yes.
Rep Gergley,
Designation, yes.
Rep Giroir,
Designation, yes.
Rep Haddock,
Yes.
Rep Harris,
Designation, yes.
Rep Hohenstein,
Designation, yes.
Rep Kazim,
Designation, yes.
Rep Mirsky, Rep Paeli,
Designation, yes.
Rep Still, Chair Maloney,
No.
Rep Banta, Rep Cabell,
Designation, no.
Rep DeVanzo,
Designation, no.
Rep Diorsi,
Designation, no.
Rep Ecker,
Designation, no.
Rep Flick,
Designation, no.
Rep Kuzma, Rep Labs,
Designation, yes.
Rep Allsummer, and Rep Wentling. It fails 11 to 14. Oh, wait.
No, we got
Oh,
a,
it passes. I'm sorry. It passes 14 to 11.
no, we had a yes.
14 to 10.
15.
15 to 10.
Thank you. We'll get it right. All right, we're moving on to House Resolution 539 offered by Representative Armanini. Is there a motion to consider House Resolution 539? Thank you. Who first and seconded that? Rep Haddock, Rep Deloso, thank you. Can we please explain the resolution?
This resolution would recognize September 28th, 2024 as National Hunting and Fishing Day in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I'm going to ask this gently. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none. Are there any negative votes on the resolution? Hearing none. House Resolution 539 is reported from the House Game and Fisheries Committee. Thank you. Okay, this is under other business brought before the committee. I am like to call up House Bill 2608 offered by Representative Nielsen and Representative Warner. Is there a motion to consider House Bill 2608? Representative Deloso, need a second. Representative Haddock, thank you. Please explain the resolution.
This legislation would amend Section 304, Waterways Patrolmen and Employees of Title 30 Fish of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to provide that each full-time waterways conservation officer whose duty it is to enforce the provisions of Title 30 be classified in the same manner as members of the Pennsylvania State Police for the purpose of compensation.
Thank you. And this pretty much mirrors a bill we did consider today on behalf of the Game Commission, and I want to thank the Fish and Boat Commission for their support of this. I know it's not the easiest issue for them, but they're going to find a way, and I greatly appreciate their interest in the well-being of their conservation officers. On that, Representative Nielsen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I couldn't be too evasive, according to the Minority Chair.
Your
I am
time's
here.
up. Your time's up.
We started this session with me on this microphone, and we're ending this session. I think this might be our last meeting coming up, and I appreciate you taking up this measure. I really do. The vote before us that happened before, I'm glad the Sunday hunting finally went through, and I look forward to voting in favor of that on the floor with a little less explanation.
It's in the details.
But
Your time's
in
up.
that, I ask everybody for your support. Rather than go on, Representative Deloso described the bill very well, and I don't want to go into it because we got to go out to the House floor, but this is for the waterways conservation officers to be treated in the same manner, and I thank you. I ask for affirmative vote, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and that's the briefest I've ever heard you give any.
And it's not because I wanted to. She made me. The lawyer came in and said, "Yo, shut it up. Let's go. Move it on." But we love Tara. Tara keeps me well grounded, and I
Yes.
thank you.
Any other comments? Are there any negative votes on this bill? Hearing none, House Bill 2608 is reported from the House Game and Fisheries Committee. I am now adjourning this meeting. Thank you to everyone
Thank you.
for a very good meeting.